Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Live Pod. Today we have on Peter Skapetis, owner and founder of Chapter 1 Real Estate and Australian Melbourne soccer player. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, man. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Man, thank you so much. It's like you do it all, man. You're in like two completely opposing different industries that literally have zero correlation with each other. Both require a lot of time, a lot of dedication, a lot of productivity. You can't sort of just be blasé with both. It's like, yeah, so fill us in, man. So how'd you get into both and where did it come from? Why do you do what you do?
Well, back when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a professional footballer, a soccer player, and yeah, went through school. I had no intention of, really staying here as long as possible. Wanted to go straight overseas, and I was lucky enough to get the opportunity when I was 16. Went over to the UK, and
at 16, that's a very exciting opportunity, isn't it?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's like you're living in a bubble, though. Like you're thinking back now, it was an incredible experience, and 8 years there
In overseas.
In London, yeah.
Oh wow!
Wow, so you lived in London for 8 years.
So I guess let's go back. When did you start playing soccer?
I started at 8 with South Melbourne.
Yeah,
did the majority of my juniors there.
At 8 years old.
It's a big drive from the southeast.
Yeah.
Parents would have hated that.
Parents hated it. But
didn't want to go Oakley.
Oh no, I was in South until I was 12, 13.
Yeah, wow.
Got into the Victorian Institute of Sport for a couple of years, and yeah, when I was 15, I went over and trialled, and then 16, I moved.
So you went to London.
Went to London, Queen's Park Rangers.
Oh wow.
QPR.
Yeah.
Signed there in the youth team, and 3 years later, Stoke City bought me. And then
how was that?
Up to Stoke.
Fucking hell. So how was that? I guess at that age, being away from family and everything.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was definitely tough. Having such a close family as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult, but again, you're living in that bubble, that sort of fairy tale almost in that sense. So it's like you've got good distractions.
What was your mindset like back then?
It had to be really, mentally tough, strong, yeah. And then it didn't get easier because I've done 4 ACLs. So
holy shit!
Yeah,
just 4 of them. Yeah, mad. All good.
So yeah, that took its toll. Slowed me down, and bouncing back from them and having them in such quick succession as well made it incredibly difficult.
So there's 2 things I want to touch on 2 of those things you said. So obviously being pretty much in your prime teenage years, girls wanted to go and party or whatever it might be. Obviously you're very career driven, and that's amazing. How did you find that you had to grow up very quickly, pretty much living in a completely foreign country by yourself? How did you go, navigating your way around, living? Did you live just like the rest of the soccer team? What was that sort of like?
Or did you learn your biggest lessons there?
Yeah, how did you go,
100%.
I have to be an adult now and I'm still 16?
Yeah, no, you definitely have to grow up quickly. And especially in a city like London as well, it's amazing the similarities but the differences as well.
Yeah.
So the way the club set it up, they find families, they put their hands up, the club suss them out, and yeah,
so sort of like foster parent type thing.
Yeah, correct. They call them digs over there, but yeah,
digs.
Foster parents. Yeah, I never understood that.
Weird word.
Never understood
it. It actually sounds worse than probably what it is.
Digs.
It's like terrible condition. Like they're not great. They're really, really not great. Like, I lived with literally the devil. She was horrible.
Oh my God.
So again, it didn't make it easier, but it
English.
helped. English. 80 years old, 3 divorces,
Oh my
kids don't
God.
She
speak
hates
to
her life.
Hates her life. So yeah, I was in there with one of the other boys, and yeah, it was
Why
just
apply
terrible.
for? So she would have to apply for something like that to host you.
Just to absolutely ruin your
Yeah.
life.
She would apply.
Fuck my husband. I'm getting two soccer players in here to fucking.
But yeah, two of us lived in there. The club source it, club pay for it, and yeah, she was a nightmare.
How does it go, if you actually had to do something like that where you feel like, okay, I actually don't want to live here, I feel uncomfortable, whatever it is. How do you go about, do you just say, hey, I don't want to live here, and they try and find you another place?
Yeah, but they're very limited. So it's incredibly difficult. So being in that environment, you've got an incredible atmosphere with your teammates, with the boys at soccer, and then going away from that at home, it helped me in the sense because I hated
You just
my
wanted to
living
train.
situations. I just trained like an animal. Like literally, as soon as I woke up, straight to the club, and I wasn't getting home till like 6, 7 o'clock at night. And our
Eat and
training
sleep.
wouldn't finish. Our training would finish at like 2, 3 o'clock with double sessions. But
Yeah,
I'd be
team, like-
doing that much more just so I could,
Get away
get
from
away
it.
from it. all,
And that was
yeah.
in the Queen's Park Ranger days.
That was Queens Park Ranger days.
And then you got approached and signed by Stoke City.
yeah.
Fuck that. So just you don't know.
Yeah,
soccer
I'm
that
fucking
well.
useless with this shit.
Huge English Premier League team. How was that?
Yeah, incredible. So making that transition, going from London to Stoke and back and forth. My parents moved over at that point as well. So
Oh, so
having
they lived in
family-
the UK?
Yeah, they lived in
No.
London.
So
Yeah.
what age did you play for at Stoke?
16 to 19, I was at QPR. 19 to 23, I was at Stoke.
Yeah.
But I signed after 3 months, did my first ACL. So I went on international duty with Australia. And, last World Cup qualifying game and snapped my knee. So, building it up, getting through everything that I did over that 3-year period initially at QPR, getting signed by Stoke, essentially getting told and working towards being on the verge of breaking in that year.
Yeah.
3 months later,
ACL.
ACL first.
Do you remember
one.
how you did it?
Yeah, I was running down the wing, full speed, cut back inside. I was in Miami at the time, so pitches were horrendous. Studs got caught, foot got caught, my body turned, went one way, my leg didn't. So, yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask. And I actually forgot. I lost my train of thought before. Is about that. So how do you go? Like, I snap my ACL, but I'm gonna get up and go again. I'm gonna make this work. And then you snap it again. You go like, no, I've still got this. I can.
First
do
one
it.
was easy. The second one, the third one, the fourth.
Yeah, so what's going through you? How did you persevere through that?
It's difficult, but you just go back to your why. You know, why you're there in the first place, why you're playing football, why do you want to get, to that elite level? What are you chasing? And then that just keeps driving you, keeps you going, and but it's difficult. It's difficult, and your body's slowing down as well. Things you could do previously, you can't do anymore. That half a second just starts to compile
Did you also
up.
find that there was a bit of a mental barrier between you and yourself going, I really want to run full pelt, or I really want to cut in, or whatever it might be, and go, in the back of your mind, like, I don't want this to happen again. Like, this could snap. God forbid. Does that always run through your mind? So you almost held back on your own performance a little bit?
Yeah, after the second one. So the first one I understood. There was contact, there was trauma in the joint. Like, I understand why that happened. The second one, I'm pressing a defender. My other one just collapsed.
Oh, no.
Another 12 months out of the game.
So is your other knee?
The other one, yeah. Yeah, so again, just for something like that, such a long-term injury to be able to go so easily, it's almost like you're slicing butter. It definitely plays a role mentally, slows you down. You're not, going as hard in some things. You'd pull out of some things. Like it does play its toll.
I guess at that age in another country with obviously your career in your sight, and then you've got these injuries happening, come the fourth ACL, what was going through your head? Like, were you like, nah, I'm still going to persevere, I'm still going to go? Were you having other voices, physios saying, look, fuck, Peter,
not worth it.
it's not worth it. Like, you're not going to get better, or, maybe clubs, even other clubs, or even Stoke City saw the fact that you had ACL, or like, how does that work? And what was going through your head?
Yeah, well, doctors would sit me down and say, your meniscus, your cartilage is literally running that thin now. There's only so much more
You can actually do.
until it's essentially just bone on bone. And, you got to weigh it up, long term. You're going to have kids. You're going to be able to run around with them. You're going to be limping around, crippled up your whole life. It definitely plays a part. So it's like I've seen the most cutthroat, ruthless industry in the world, and that's professional sport. They don't care who you were, what you did, how many goals you scored, how many caps you got for your country. They didn't care at the end of that. After my contract was up at Stoke, and fair play to them, I got the best rehab in the world, and they stood by me in that sense. But once my contract came to an end, well, look at it from a business perspective as well. I didn't play. I didn't deliver. I was in a physio room in a gym for the better half of 4 years. So
I think you probably don't know this person, but I think Gareth Bale's a good thing of that, because he was for Real Madrid and then he had his injuries, and they were just like, yeah, okay, cool, you're not doing anything for us now.
Yeah.
And they sort of palmed him off over a few seasons.
Mm.
So even on that and in that regard, it's just, you're right, it's crazy. So, sport England, tell us how you made the shift, I guess, came back, and now you've started your own business. How did that all form?
So came back, played in the A-League. Again, I was still of the mindset.
For Central Coast?
Yeah, Central Coast Mariners and Brisbane Roar.
Yep.
But I was still of the mindset. I wanted to continue to keep pursuing professional sport, professional soccer, and that would essentially kick-start it again off the back of my injuries to see what I could make of the game again. Yep. But my body wasn't holding up.
So had you done your fourth ACL, then played A-League, or did you do your
Yeah.
fourth whilst at A-League?
I did it and then played A-League.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And just, my body wasn't holding up. I'd come back and I'd cramp constantly, and no matter what I tried, it's just, you know.
Body was tapping out.
Body was tapping out. I get out of the car a certain way and I'd feel it all the way through, So it's like I had to make the decision. And then from both perspectives, not only my body, but, long-term, financially, no disrespect to Australian football, but you're on 67, 68, 69 grand first year contract really in the A-League. And the way I looked at it, I weighed it up. I've still got mates who are playing in the A-League, and I looked at them in that sense, and I was like, by the time you're mid-30s, say you step out of the game, you're still going to have to get into the real world essentially and
Still work.
I thought to myself, okay, how can I get out earlier, still keep playing,
but for the enjoyment of it.
For the enjoyment, and, have to start a career and pursue something else.
Yeah.
And that's how I fell into property.
Okay.
So
it's funny. It's funny because we had Oscar Lidlin on here, and we had a chat around the fact that, when it comes to professional sport, there comes a point where you sit back and you analyze, where is my future going? Because Oscar was obviously a pro boxer before he got into Lidlin developments and everything like that. And, it gets to that stage where it's just like, which path am I going to go to? And it's a big risk, I guess, in that matter as well. So, how did you get into?
Yeah, what made you go real estate? You could have been a chippy, a glazier. I don't know. But it's like, how did real estate come about?
And then industrial, I guess, for that matter as well.
Yeah, no. So real estate property, I've always been interested in it, always been fascinated about it, and I thought I'd pursue a career in it. I never anticipated, commercial or industrial. I got my license. I put 50 ads out on Seek, and I got 2 calls. One was Ray White in Glen Waverley, and the other was Hudson Bond in Doncaster. So rocking up, it was a surreal feeling. It's like, okay, I was doing what I was doing previously, never had a job interview in my life, and then I'm rocking up suit and tie to an office, and going into that, go in. Guy sits me down. He goes, "I've seen your YouTube highlights. I think you'd be perfect." And I'm like,
"Wait, what? How does it make any sense?
How does that work?" But then I started to understand that comment. I didn't end up at Ray White. Went to Hudson Bond in Doncaster. I thought I was rocking up for a residential sales role.
Oh, so you thought it was residential?
Yeah, and it turned out to be a commercial property management role. So starting there, I like the vibe. I like to feel, the company, and starting commercial property management, got into commercial leasing, then commercial sales. But then I always just gravitated towards industrial, and that's how
What did you take from that comment? How did you take that comment of the highlights? How did you make that translation between he likes the way I play soccer to I'm a good real estate agent?
The same mental toughness, commitment, dedication that it takes. And then going back to Oscar as well, professional boxer. That applied into the business world.
He's unstoppable.
Yeah, incredible. Taking that commitment, that dedication, and then channeling it correctly in the business world.
Nothing will fucking get in your way.
No, you've got that much more of an advantage already. So that's when I didn't understand at the time. I was laughing at him, but a couple years go by, and then that's when it really clicked, and showing that. And I was worked for someone for 3 years, and then a little over a year ago started my own business, and that industrial sector is where I've really gravitated towards, and I'd say 90% of my business is industrial now. And
How'd you
Love
find
it.
the transition from, I guess, management to leasing, then to sales?
I thought it was a fantastic way to get into it because you're learning everything on the back end. You know, how to structure leases, market reviews, you know, everything in that regard. And then obviously, you know, the maintenance side of things, dealing with landlords, tenants, and everything in between all the way through, and then just making that transition to then leasing the property, you know, understanding the back end of all that, to then getting to sales and understanding all that, and then being able to do essentially everything all the way through. So
Was there a massive jump from management to sales?
not really.
Is-
Not really.
Is industrial sales as like cutthroat as residential?
Yes and no. You know, it goes back to relationships at the end of the day, and knowing what you're talking about, what you're doing,
Yeah.
and, you know, really just tailoring it to that particular client. You're dealing with, you know, not only people who are running their businesses, but investors as well. And yeah, it's a different conversation, a different client than selling a home to.
Yeah.
You know,
You'd have to, it would be, because I'm sitting there trying to think how, you know, the process of you guys, you know, acquiring properties and then selling them and then having those discussions too, and then different type of buyer as well. Like, it's interesting.
Is there a lot less requirements, and that's probably not the right word, but for example, when somebody's looking for a house, they want X amount of bathrooms, garage, square meters, but it's like in an office or an industrial piece of real estate, it's like it probably needs to be X amount in size and maybe have a mezzanine. It's like, is there anything you've noticed, like people are actually more picky, less picky? Is there certain things that people are actually leaning towards when buying industrial real estate?
if you're using it for your business, I like to help them get creative in the sense of how you sell a home, for example. You know, you can sell an ensuite, master bedroom, beautiful view, beautiful kitchen. Where when you're dealing with industrial, yeah, the way they're building them now, they look phenomenal. But at the end of the day, it needs to make sense financially. It needs to be viable for them. You need to get into whatever emotion is ticking them over in order to make their decision. Whether it's purely numbers based and from an investment perspective, you need to sell it in the sense why their tenants will flourish in this particular pocket, in this particular development, or from their business. How is it going to help them? How are they going to grow? How can they, you know, utilize the
Is it
space to its
suited
best
to them?
potential?
Yeah.
Correct. And tailoring it in that sense. So it's a different conversation, and you need to get far more creative as opposed to just opening the door sometimes and people fall in love with a home.
And since you've been in
It's
this,
a lot harder now, but I fucking wish it was that easy.
Yeah,
but
no, correct.
since you've been in the space, have you noticed a trend towards one industry more than the other? So, for an example, a lot of small, medium e-commerce brands are just buying industrial and keeping all their stock there rather than just drop shipping it from China or whatever it might be. Have you noticed a trend towards one industry more than the other? Even like a lot of small gyms are just buying industrial, turning them into facilities.
Yeah, no, that's why I think unless you're a service provider, you look at main road retail, unless you're a cafe, a restaurant, real estate agent,
You need industrial.
people are gravitating towards that industrial.
Have you seen a massive growth since the uproar of e-commerce?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
Massively. And I think COVID fast-tracked that even
Yeah,
more as well,
100%.
without a doubt. So, you can go into an
Sink or
industrial
swim.
business
That's what
park.
people have to go.
Correct. And, that's why the business parks have really flourished, because the rental in comparison to shopping centre or retail strip, a quarter, a third, significantly less regardless.
100%.
And because they've got their exposure online through social media, they don't need that main road exposure anymore. They still drive
That's so fucking true.
so much more traction.
I never thought about it like that too. I mean, there obviously are, commercial places that still have some sort of value. Like if you've got a commercial place where did I drive past the other day? And it was a retail store, but they were on like, not Chapel Street. It was near Chapel Street. And I thought to myself, I took a step back. I was like, fuck, I wonder how much traffic they actually get compared to, the online business and how it's affected them paying that amount of rent on that road there to sell their shit.
Well, they just could have put that into marketing and probably tripled their revenue.
Tripled it
Yeah,
online,
correct.
And
Correct.
I think I sat back and I thought about it and I was just like, I think the only time where retail would actually pay off and you're paying top dollar for A spot somewhere would probably be in a shopping centre.
But even then, like in a good shopping center, but also in a good spot in a shopping
Correct,
center.
yeah.
If you're like at Chadston and you're like somewhere in the corner next to Maya, it's like probably not. It's like if you're next to another big store, let's say like JD Sports or something, you're probably going to get a little bit more traction just because people will go into such a well-known store and they're probably going to slip into yours.
Yeah,
So that in
like it all
itself
makes
is like a little bit of not marketing, but a little bit more exposure for you already.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
I think a big thing as well that's helping the business parks and like commercial is that there's I can't even say this word, I always fuck it up. Exclusivity. Like people like being a part of a community. So it's like if you've got a store, you've got a store, you've got a store, it's like, oh, I like what they have. It's like, you know, it's like a team there, they're real nice places. I want to be a part of that. How can I be a part of that? It costs me less and it helps my business. And that in itself is a referral system. Like if you're running an e-commerce brand out of there and I buy a couple pieces and then my friends see it, hey, where did you get that? Oh, actually my neighbor has the e-commerce brand here. So that in itself is its own marketing. So
No, without a doubt. Without a doubt. You
and
know?
people really like belonging because people buy people and people like being a part of a community. If you can build off camaraderie and exclusivity, people will buy.
Yeah.
And that goes with anything. It's like if you started a business park and said, oh, I've only got 10 factories here and we're not making another business park for another 10 years and everyone likes you and like what you've built, it's like they'll sell out and then people will buy just because they want to be a part of something.
Which is it's very similar to Oscar's, I think, strategy moving forward in his business parks too. One thing I wanted to quickly ask you is you took the step out of where you were and started your own business. How did you find that?
It was a difficult transition. You know, it's like anything good, you know, it's tough initially and yeah, you know, juggling all that, also juggling sport as well.
So were you still playing A-League when you made the...
No,
Okay.
no. I played MPL.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Where?
So, at that point, I was at South Melbourne. Then I went to Altona Magic last year. Now I'm playing at Kingston. So, yeah, juggling that, managing that. If I was doing residential, I don't think it works.
Why is
Commercial,
that?
Monday to Friday commercial predominantly, even though I do work.
Because residential
weekends.
fucks your life, that's why.
Don't get into it.
So
Life hack.
99% of the work I do is Monday to Friday. You know, still working every weekend, but tidying up other things and working on other things. Seeing clients Monday to Friday because they run businesses as well, and then that's when they're on board with residential weekends. Yeah,
they're fucked.
yeah, not gonna.
Is that what also helped you pick commercial?
I fell into it. I had no idea. I thought I was rocking up for a residential.
Oh, so
sales
literally,
role.
okay.
I had no
So it just
idea
happened.
when.
And you're like, I'm just going to run with it.
Yeah. He asked me back then, he goes, do you know what role you're here for? I started aerating. Yeah, no worries. And then once I figured out commercial property management.
What did you say?
I went back to my car. This was because I had a couple that was the first interview. I went back to my car, already confirmed the second interview with his dad. It was part of the business as well a couple of days later. So I get back to my car and I start Googling what commercial property management is. And yeah, no, but look, it worked out. It worked out really well in the end. And yeah, by doing that and starting that way, property management, leasing, sales, that really helped me start my own business because I saw everything on the back end.
And as Michael was saying, what made you go, I'm not going to work for someone or under a company, I can do my own? Was it purely a financial thing, like there's more money to be made, you live more freedom with your hours? What sort of was it that goes, this isn't going to work for me, this is a better option?
It's just, I think it's always been within me, you know, wanting to do it for myself, you know, being able to as well. It's just, that's what was driving me, you know. I've always felt unfulfilled in the sense that my goal, my dream was always to be a professional footballer. I didn't achieve the heights that I wanted to, okay, because of injury, but again, I didn't get there. So it's like I'm always trying to chase something more and more and more. And I want to be the best possible version of myself and exploring, you know, everything.
And it's a great trait to have, for
And
sure.
on that note, what do you do for your own personal development? You sort of enrolled in some courses, you read a lot of audiobooks, listen, you have a mentor, things like that.
Audio books and even reading, most nights. A lot of podcasts as well. I can't remember the last time we played music in the car. It's just
It's
always podcasts now, and just trying
soccer,
to gather.
obviously. You did soccer.
Yeah,
Still.
yeah.
Was
Soccer.
that Tuesday, Thursdays?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday game.
Fuck, that's
on the
still a
weekend.
lot.
Do you find yourself? I know for both of us, like we might be out or having a dinner, or like we might be just doing something, but we're both thinking about the things that we have to do for our businesses. Do you find you're like that at soccer? Or you like when you're there, you can sort of switch off?
No, you can switch off. I can't switch off any other thing in my life, but when you're playing soccer, you do. Yeah, for whatever reason, for me, that's
That's your release.
that's a release, great release, 100%. Because I still genuinely enjoy it as well.
Of course.
And also, playing with your mates, playing with your family,
Community.
It's good. Yeah, it's really good.
So now that you're in the commercial real estate field, have you found that you have actually developed a passion for it? Like it's obviously you got into it sort of by accident, you started doing it, and did you go like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be? Like, I actually really like this and I can see myself doing this.
Yeah, and I love it.
Okay.
Absolutely love it. And yeah, I gravitated towards the industrial side, and that's becoming my bread and butter now. And that's what I truly enjoy.
So your company, is it, just to clarify, is it just industrial?
No, we cover everything.
Oh, so you do
No, we've got retail, office on the books as well. But
residential?
residential, we've dabbled in it a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Where clients have crossed over. They've got their homes,
Both.
apartments, even management now as well. Yeah, we are doing a little bit, but
Do you
the
need
majority commercial.
Do you need a different license to sell industrial?
No.
It's
No,
the
no,
same. It's the
real
same
estate
across the
license.
board, isn't
Same
it?
across the board.
Okay, yeah.
Same real estate license across the board.
Interesting. Cool. What for me, I guess, because I've obviously being in real estate too, you think about potentially going down your own path in the future as well. How did it work from, I guess, a standpoint of contacts and network when you start up your business in industrial? Where did that all come from? And how did you sort of, I guess, get around that? Because I think one of the hardest things with people is when they start their own, their own businesses in property. It's the contacts, it's the network, it's your database.
It's all about who you
That's
know.
hard to
Correct.
grow.
Who you know at the end of the day, the work you've done for your clients is at the end of the day, you're dealing with people. So if they like you, they trust you, they respect you.
People
then
by people.
People by people.
Mm.
Correct.
Did you find that because you had a bit of a name for yourself in, the sporting industry, like you had a bit of a reputation just as a, let's say, social person? What's the word? As a public figure, that's the word. Did you find that helped you and people started to recognize you? Oh, like, well, again, it's like people want to be in contact with people of value. This guy used to play in the UK. Oh, I want to buy my property off him. Did you find that was sort of happening a little bit as well?
Yeah, definitely. Friends, family, that's what
How
I
did
built my
your
business
friends
on.
and family take it going, well, did they ever say like, what's wrong with you? Why are you not playing soccer? You want to sell houses? Did they ever go like, what the fuck? What's happening?
My body didn't allow me to.
I know you did,
couldn't.
but what did they
Yeah.
say? What was their sort of take on you transitioning?
No, they were happy. As long as I was happy at the end of the day, then yeah, they supported me.
Sorry, excuse me. One question I have is, I guess throughout your soccer journey, all your injuries, going to England, having that, then coming back, A-League, working out what you want to do, getting into the industrial industry, then starting your own business. What have been some of the major, I guess, setbacks or, I guess, downtimes that you've had throughout your life? Like, what have been the hardest points?
The hardest when you're crippled up in bed, you can't walk, and you're recovering from an injury. It's like everything that you ever knew was taken away from you. It's taken away from you in a split second. Being able to manage that and bounce back from that transition was definitely.
Yeah, what was your
toughest.
mindset bouncing back? Was it like, I have to do this, I can do this, I will do this again, I've done it once, I'll do it again? Or was it like, again, it's like, or was it just always having that end goal, where go, back to the Premier League? It's like, I've got to get there. And like, you just go, if I just reverse engineer that, get better, do my physio, do my rehab, start training, start walking, start running, and build the building blocks up again, I'll get there. What was sort of the mindset behind it?
essentially that, you know. But after one and the other, it takes its toll, and you have to be a realist in the sense. No matter how much you
Yes.
want something, if your body can't hold up, you've got nothing.
I think that's with anything. Obviously it's really good and important to set goals, and goals are a little bit scary, but within reason. It's like if you've just made 100 grand a year, and you want to make, I'm going to make 10 million next year. It's like maybe, like it's maybe possible, but it's like you have to set it a bit of a scary goal, but like you said, sort of within reason. So
I'm all for setting extraordinary goals, but I think what's important is the process in order to get to that point. You can't just say, like you said, go from 100 grand to 10 mil. Yeah, maybe you can, but how are you going to get there? What's the step? Each step along the way. That's why you need to truly understand and believe and find that process, you know? So, yeah, set extraordinary goals, but
they should be scary.
they should be scary, 100%, but how are you going to get there as well? You need to understand the process because you're not going to get there otherwise.
What is the goal for your business? Like, what's the next big goal for you guys?
Just want to keep expanding, keep employing, and, yeah, just
What does that
keep
look like
growing.
getting into different, I guess, maybe growing your residential side? How does that look?
I want to keep growing the commercial at the moment. Property management, I'm putting a massive emphasis on, just constantly wanting to take on more properties, growing that. And it's a domino effect into everything, you know, bigger sales department, bigger leasing department, and just, yeah, that 3 to 5 year plan and just keep going from there.
From the property, I guess, aspect of you having your own business, what have been the major setbacks then? And what have been the major, I guess, things where you've had to take a step back, like, oh, fuck, all right, I've got to do this to, keep going?
I think any business is challenging, but at the end of the day, you know, you bounce back from certain things and you keep learning from it. You keep growing and you keep moving forward, you know, just constantly coming
Evolving.
It's a fantastic, I guess, perspective to have, because it's not a lot of people are like that. They get hit and they get hit again, and then they get hit again and they just give up. Or some people just get hit and just give up.
It's like that video I'm sure we've all heard. It's like, it's not how hard you can get, it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Because
Balboa.
it's like, because it's always going to happen.
He doesn't watch movies. He doesn't.
No. It's it's going to happen regardless. No matter how small or how major, it's going to happen. There's always going to be setbacks. It's always one step back, 2 steps forward. Sometimes it's even 5 steps back, and you might end up in a shittier position than what you were originally in. But again, it's the steps in the process. If you just repeat that, the goal will eventually come. You just have to keep going through the motions to tick the box in the long run. I personally believe, at least.
100%. And if you just keep repeating successful actions, what's worked for you?
Success leaves clues as well.
Absolutely. You know, and that's why I'm massive on having a structure, getting up every morning, having my routine.
What does Peter's daily routine look like?
Daily routine, up usually between 5:30, 45 minutes to an hour max in the gym. Then
Weight training?
It varies, and I tailor it to my soccer schedule.
Yep.
So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm doing more rehab, yoga, targeted breathing in the mornings, where Tuesday, Thursday, it's injury prevention, still soccer specific, but with a little bit of cardio as well to top that up, and then weekends depending on what day the game falls on. But yeah, most mornings up early, in the office after that, 8:30, just
Where's your office located?
Ascot Vale, 404 Alexander Road. So
There you go. You heard it here first.
so and then tackling the day at that point. I like to appointments in the morning, and then
How do you like to set out your day? Because I think this is a big thing a lot of young, just go-getters, entrepreneurs struggle with. It's like, do I go by how many tasks I have? Do I use a to-do list? Do I go, time-bound tasks? So how do you like to sort of tackle your day? Because I feel like this is a big take-home that a lot of people struggle with.
I think to-do lists 100%. I always do them the night before, but having my appointments blocked up in the morning predominantly, and then in the afternoon it's the more admin side of things, and if we're finalising contracts, leases, whatever it is, we do that in the afternoon.
I think a big thing there that everyone can take home from, even I do, is just writing the to-do list the night before. That in itself I find is such a big thing.
I should probably do
Because
that.
one, I find that I can sleep better because I'm not worrying about what the hell I have to do tomorrow. But two, it stops the stress of that day. So you just know, okay, this is my plan of attack. If I just tick these boxes, today was successful, and I can just repeat
Definitely. Yeah. You're more efficient that way as
that.
well.
100%. You're not like, and that way your mind is clear to actually do the task rather than worrying about, have I got another person to call? Have I got another email to write? It's all laid out. You just literally tick the box. With that also, I wanted to ask, a lot of people like to go, I'm just going to give myself 2 hours to reply to emails. Whereas some people like to go, I'm going to reply to 10 emails. Which do you like to get set time bound sort of tasks or task-based tasks, like set amount of X activity?
With that sort of stuff, I'll be replying to emails at midnight even, and all through the day, on your phone now. That sort of stuff, yeah, I'm not organized in that sense, and the way I operate, I want to get back to
Still
people as
figuring
soon
it
as
out.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
want
gotta
to get
play it
back
by
to
ear.
people as soon as possible, but
You have to in this game too.
course.
Yeah.
speed's incredibly important. Speed's
Yeah,
my number
straight
one
away.
aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my number one asset, speed.
And that was actually one of my things when I started. It was just like, I guess, I remember when I went for my interview, my boss was like, we're not going to throw you in the deep end. You're going to learn. Because like I had never been in the industry before. And then I remember my first day, he literally fucking threw me straight in the deep end. And you just get overwhelmed with like all this information because there's all these things per property that you have to know and have to do. You need your documents, you need your section 32, you need to make sure your vendors are, I guess, under control. And this would all be similar with you guys too. You need to make sure, you're reaching out to every buyer that's inquired on your property. Then you obviously, I'm not sure how opens work for industrial.
We operate private inspection.
It's private inspection only.
Yeah.
And then you have to organize all that. And I'm sure you have to have your legal, document out for that and everything like that too. So, and that's for one property. And then when you're dealing with like 4 or 5 of those, plus taking a step back and figuring out, how am I going to organize income for the next month after I sell these? There's so many elements to it where it just can be quite overwhelming. And at the start I was like that, but then I found I switched to, if I got a text with an inquiry, it's straight away. If I got an email, it's straight away. And once you do that and tick it off, or you have some sort of like, one thing I've done really well is have a note system on my phone. So if I'm like fucking in the middle of, I don't know, an inspection or something, and I think of, I have to do this when I get back to the office, I will try and get on my phone quickly and put it into a note system. So then that way when I go back, so I don't forget.
Yeah.
Because as humans, we can only retain so much information. And it gets to a point where you remember things, but you just forget them because there's, so much, and we're overflowing. Like it's just, and it's not that you're shit or you're not good at your job because you can't retain information. It's just the fact that you physically can't.
Especially people like us who are always on the go, replying to people, trying to do more, inquiring more business, whatever it is. It's like, you're going to have those random thoughts like, I forgot to do this. So if you don't write it down, you're going to forget because there's so much more
100%.
information coming in.
Yeah, no,
But
without a doubt.
There's 2 things I wanted to say. So in terms of the private inspections, do you find that obviously it's better from a building rapport and a buyer standpoint, I guess, but from a standpoint of, let's say you got 10 people or 10 potential buyers that are interested, doesn't that take up a lot more time for you to set that out? And do you find that's almost counterintuitive to being productive as a whole because you're taking so much more time out to serve each individual person?
100%, but I prefer it that way. You're building that relationship, you're building that rapport.
Yep.
You're truly getting to the bottom of understanding what they're after and what they require. So if it's not that property, it'll be something else. And, them seeing that and them understanding
How much you care.
how much I care, correct. That's come across in, lifetime clients now that I'm going to be working with for the rest of my life.
More so in terms of, let's say you've got 10 for this property and 10 for 4 other properties. That's like, 50 people. So that's what I'm asking. Like, how do you sort of manage that when it's like there's so much and still get around to everything? But again, like I said before, still on top of your emails, your admin, your stock guide, everything else. So that's what I'm asking. How do you find that balance between managing it all?
It's difficult to juggle, but again, organization is key for it. Planning your day the night before, having that structure in place and trying to stick to it as much as possible. It's never perfect, but trying to stick to that structure as much as possible. It gives you the best opportunity to be able to to juggle it all.
In terms of speed, you guys said obviously speed is really important, and I couldn't agree more. I got this off Reece Livingstone. He's like, if you can provide a service that somebody else is already providing with a quicker turnaround time, or get them to their result quicker, whether it be buying the house, whether it be losing X amount of kilos in a short amount of time that somebody else can do it, you can automatically charge more because speed always wins. He's like, if you say you can lose 10 kilos in a year and charge, I don't know, $100 a week, or lose 10 kilos in a month and charge 200, the person will always pay more because people are lazy and they want it done sooner.
Correct.
It's true.
Yeah.
I've often thought about that and tried to apply it to real estate, but it's a bit different.
Yeah, because you guys have to wait for correspondence from different people, so it's probably a little bit different for you guys.
It's more like if you're doing speed in real estate, and if you're doing speed in real estate, then the result's not there, because then because we can sell stuff in the first weekend, but will it be the best result?
Yeah, will it be
maybe
the
not.
best price? Probably not. Yeah, because you got to wait for other people to put the offers.
What's the turnaround time? You list a property. What's the turnaround time? Like how long does it take to sell an industrial lot?
Depending, look, everything's different. Whether it's off plan, whether it's already built and established.
Yeah.
You know, some things happen overnight. Some a little bit of a tougher sale as well. You know, I think it's all relative. What are the vendor's expectations as well on price? Or, you know, there's a lot of variables in that sense. Is it vacant? Is there a tenant in place? What's the rental yield? Rate per square meter? There's a lot that does go into it, and each property is different. But yeah, I'd say, look, on average, you can go from a week to a month, really. But private inspection, private sale, that's what I specialize in, and I prefer it that way.
Is there a lot of auctions that happen with industrial or not?
There's plenty. Yeah, there's plenty. It'll be the same across the board, whether it's residential or commercial. Same
What do you find usually yields a better result?
I prefer private sale.
Yep.
I think, you know.
So where there's no sort of people, you can just do direct communication.
Yeah. Depending on the market, I just think with auctions, if your property fails at auction, you know, the price is damaged and the property's damaged in that sense, where if it's private sale, you can...
It's great education for the vendor though, isn't it?
It is. But at the end of the day, you know, you want to be able to do that without having, you know, the detriment of damaging that property.
100%. If you had to... Sorry.
No, go.
No,
go.
I feel like yours is going to be
I'm
better.
going to forget.
No, go.
You're going to forget.
No, I'm good. Go. Cuz speak.
I was just saying from an investment standpoint, there's a massive debate about, you know, people getting into purchasing their first investment property, and there's the whole debate against residential and industrial. What are some of the qualities? And again, we had this discussion with Oscar, but what are your
take
from your perspective?
Pros and cons.
Yeah, pros and cons of investing in industrial, and then compared to residential too. And what do you need entering the industrial market compared to residential?
Legalities,
deposits, you know, finance, everything like that.
So if you were sort of, let's say, teaching someone, what would you sort of tell them? That's sort of
commercial, 100%, and then more specifically industrial within that. No question. You know, if you compare the both, you've got a tenant in place in residential property as opposed to your commercial. You're paying for everything, where your commercial tenant will pay your council rates, your body corporate, building insurance, water rates. They'll take care of all that, every bit of maintenance as well, everything but structural. Your tenant pays for as well, where residential, that's not the case. So if you look at your net yields and you take into consideration over the course of 2, 3, 5, 10 years of owning that residential property as opposed to that commercial one, what is your actual net yield? Because every couple of years you might have to change your carpets in the residential investment, repaint, pipe,
and inflation of everything as well.
Correct.
That's good. That's a good point. Let's talk about equity growth.
That though, yeah, growth historically in a home, yeah, it has been more, but at the same time, you need cash flow. You talk about inflation, spot on. You know, at the end of the day, $1 today wasn't worth what it was 10 years ago. So, okay, you've had that growth in your home, but at the end of the day, what are you buying for the same value in 10 years' time?
Yes.
You need cash flow. And commercial gives you that cash flow and it maximizes your yield and your return. You know, so that's why I'll always push that.
Can I speak? You sure? For an example, like a house like this, back in 2000 would have been, let's just say 300,000. It might be worth 800,000 now, but if you go and try and take 800,000 to anywhere in Melbourne right now, it's going to get you a shoebox. It's going to get you nothing. So, like you said, it's like your carryover. Sorry.
Yeah, continue.
I lost my train of thought, bro. If I can speak, bro, I don't speak no more, bro. I give up. Fuck you, bro.
No, you're saying you're taking your $800,000 and it gets you a shoebox.
Yeah, like it gets you, okay, your house, like Peter was saying, your house has gone up, your house is worth more. Cool, amazing. So if you sell it, you've technically made a lot of money, but you're not going to get anything with that amount of money, even though you've made money on that. What you can get in return for that is so much less compared to what you had originally bought for many years ago.
That's why cash flow, I think, is essential. Maximizing your yields, constantly multiplying it. You're getting your growth in your commercial property. Yeah, it might not be historically at the same level as residential, but at the same time, it's far more valuable in the long run.
Yeah, and
you're taking equity from that, you're refinancing it. You get so creative as to the way you can configure it all.
But it's interesting because and some people I speak to who are only residential, investors and stuff like that, they would rather, they appreciate the cash flow too. And I guess it depends on someone's portfolio and what they sort of need at that point in time. But their tactic is buying investments, everywhere that are sort of cash flow positive whilst having that equity growth too. And for them, it's not necessarily about the cash flow. And I guess it's an investing technique that people use too. It's not about the cash flow, but it's about the overall equity that you have amongst those properties too, and at the rate of that growth too. Because what they do is they don't sell them necessarily; is they just reborrow off them and just create
and reinvest that,
reinvest and buy more and more and more and more. Compared to, and I think, and
can't you do the same with both then?
It's just different,
and then the cash flow still the same. If you reinvest and buy more, don't you still have the same amount of cash flow?
Well, that's why I said equity growth, because if you have an industrial property, and it's the exact same too for residential units and townhouses, the equity growth on a unit and townhouse compared to a freehold house on land is ridiculous. So if you have a townhouse and you purchase it, and I've seen it firsthand because I sold a unit in St Kilda, right? Part of a building, part of a body corp. They purchased that for $300,000 in 2010, and I sold it at the last year in a good market for $298,000. So there was no growth there at all over a 10-year period. Whereas if you have a free home like yours on land, and you're selling that in that difference, you're looking at a substantial growth. Like you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars difference. And when banks assess that, that's what I guess allows you to have a higher borrowing capacity and a higher, they give you more money to purchase more things.
I agree, but I think what Peter and I were saying is, what are you going to do with that? Because if you're going to, again, borrow more with that, let's say you get that 300,000 back.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that going to get you now in today's market?
$300,000, you would re-borrow that and then use that to put towards a deposit for other properties, and then the bank would just give you the money for the other properties.
But what I'm saying is, what sort of
you wouldn't
crappy properties you're going to be able to get?
You're not having $300,000.
I feel like you're missing my point.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Because what you just made off that is so minor. And then today's market with inflation, everything's gone up. So what sort of other residential property are you going to be able to buy with 300,000?
Well, it's not necessarily about the actual property itself. It's about the numbers. It's a numbers game.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I have this discussion with people too all the time. They say, "Oh, Michael, you're going to buy a property. Where are you going to buy?" I'm just like, "Oh, in Queensland." They're like, "Why? Are you going to move to Queensland to live there?" There's just this, there's this expectation that when you buy a home, you need to live there or you have to see it physically.
Bullshit.
Whereas the real investors, it's all in the numbers game for them. Like if you're buying a property in New Zealand, for example, like you don't pay capital gains tax.
True.
Like there's different things, and there's only 2 countries that can invest, in residential properties in New Zealand, and that's Australia. And I think the other one's Singapore. So people don't know this stuff too, but like you'd be better off buying a home in New Zealand for $400,000 with great equity growth sitting on like 2 acres, with a rental yield that actually pays off the mortgage, so you're not paying a cent out of it, compared to buying a fucking $1 million home in Oakley where you're paying a substantial amount to that mortgage. It's just, there's so many factors to it. It's just crazy.
No, there are. And I think across the board as well, you look at principal and interest, or are you
Correct.
just doing interest, or, there's so many different variables for every different property. Is it a townhouse, apartment? Is it a standalone home? Is it a storage unit, a warehouse, a retail shop, an office? There's so many different variables across the board, and it needs to be right. There is a right and wrong, but at the same time, it's a very broad right and wrong,
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I don't think one's better than the other for sure. I think it really depends. And I'm always big on diversity. I think you definitely need commercial and residential too, because let's just say the residential market crashes and not crashes, but goes down a bit. You've got your commercial there too, and vice versa as well.
Yeah.
And diversity in a whole, I would say. So, property market, stocks, whatever it is.
I would say diversity, though, with property, I'd always be away from resi. That's just my personal belief. I'd have diversity in the commercial space, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't get into resi.
So what would you do then if there was a massive shift in the economy where it took a massive impact on, the commercial property market?
Can't see it happening much. Like, just across the board, there's always going to be
A demand for
a
it.
demand, without a doubt, depending on the property, of course. Certain things, CBD offices, fucked.
They're fucked.
Yeah, but suburban business parks, industrial, even retail to a certain extent, even city fringe offices are still doing exceptionally well. In your Essendons, in your Brunswicks, Coburgs, Ascot Vales, they're still doing exceptionally well. So again, being versatile in the sense, not being attached to say, okay, I will sell certain things as the economy shifts, as commercial property moves forward. That's what I'd be doing. Just rejuggling everything to suit the current time, because the world's ever evolving. So,
Correct.
But I would do it in the commercial space.
Yeah.
That diversity. So, yeah, being knowledgeable in that sense, educated enough to be able to make the right decisions.
For someone like as we said before, that's wanting to invest in the commercial field, what would be your sort of hot tips for them? Would it be...
You can get into the market now for 150 grand. And, understanding that and educating yourself on that, there's many different ways, but I'd get in off-plan industrial. That's what I would get in, because you get your immediate growth. You're purchasing today for something that's going to be completed in 18 months' time. You're already getting your growth from day one from putting your 10% deposit down. Upon settlement...
Is settlement when it's done?
Yeah, upon completion.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're an investor now and you purchase today, it's going to be completed in 18 months' time. You put your 10% down now, you're getting that growth for that 18th month period. 3 to 4 months out from completion, start your leasing campaign, secure yourself a tenant. Ideal world, all going well, you're having immediate income upon settlement, servicing your loan. You can get away with a 20% deposit now. So you've already put down your 10, you come up with another 20, 80% LVR, loan to value ratio, and whether you're doing principal and interest or interest only, 99% of the time, the ones I've worked with my clients, they're positively geared extensively. So that's the process I would take. After a year or two, refinance it, take your equity out, and do it again. Do it again. Correct. Just keep multiplying it.
So as a general rule, if you're buying something that's around the 150 mark, let's, blow it up a little bit. It's about 40 grand and you can have yourself your first piece of commercial real estate, blowing it up.
Definitely.
In terms of deposits.
Yeah, storage unit, 4.8 meter high internal ceilings.
Yeah.
And you can put a mezz in as well.
That's it.
What are the standard deposits that you see offered for industrial properties? Does it range?
In order to settle on it?
Yeah,
Or
no,
at
I
the
mean, like
start?
for residential, we get people that offer 5%, we get people that offer 10%, we get people that offer 30%, 20%. What's the standard deposit
10%.
Is it 10%?
10%, yeah. Some I've seen with 5%, but
If
yeah.
they really, Yeah.
But
And then
yeah,
I guess,
majority 10%.
and I guess if they want it more, they offer more. Does that help too, or doesn't really care? Does it depend on the vendor?
Yeah, it depends on the vendor situation. Section 27, is it valuable enough for them to release their deposit early? What sort of settlement terms are they looking at?
Yeah.
It definitely varies.
Okay.
It definitely varies.
Is there a particular type of, is the one you just said, like the storage unit type, sort of easiest way, lowest barrier to market entry for someone that's starting in fresh?
Yeah. From 150 to say 350,000, that's generally the price point that they fall into. And then warehousing now, depending of course where you are, from $500,000 to 2.5.
Yeah.
So
What about just one thing I want to touch on quickly in regards to all this, and this is fantastic too. Like I think our listeners would really appreciate hearing like this as well from your perspective. What about vacancy rates? What are vacancy rates like in the industrial?
it varies, but again, a successful project, successful business park, you're up at 98% tenants. I think
Really
it's
good.
fantastic. It is genuinely fantastic, and the properties that we have, industrial, when they come up for lease, they're getting snapped up straight away.
I think in this market more than ever, it's a great time to invest. Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, without a doubt. And it's exciting moving forward, without a question.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
I
That
think it'll be a good.
That
note
is
to-
a wrap. Thank you, everyone, very much for listening. Thank you, Peter, for coming on, sharing all that knowledge, all
Thanks
that
for having me,
value.
guys.
If you're not already following him and his businesses on Instagram, please do so. Other than that, guys, that is another episode of the Life Pod done. Thank you again very much for coming on. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys on another episode. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.